Hello guys, lots of warm wishes from my side. I am Paras Mehak. I am working as an assistant professor in Lovely Professional University, and now here I am going to teach you guys the cost accounting. So we have already covered up the unit 1 and the unit 2. In the unit 2, in which we have discussed about the classification of the cost, the kind of cost and the elements of cost. And now we are going to cover up the unit 3, which is basically related to the cost sheet. So in the unit 3, we are going to prepare the cost sheet, which is basically a statement of the representation of the cost which is incurred at a different level. So that is what the cost sheet is. So let's start with the today's lecture. So if we go back and summarize, just give a summary to or revise our unit 2. In the unit 2, we have discussed about what our cost is, what are the different elements of costs are, basically which includes our labor is there, our material is there, and there are other expenses are there. And then we have done division and the kind of costs in it. That is basically whether something is a fixed cost, it is a variable cost, it is a relevant cost, irrelevant cost, replacement cost is there. So these were the things that we have covered up under the unit 2. So now in the unit 3, we have to show up or we have to prepare the cost sheet, which is a very important part of the cost accounting. So now let me tell you guys what a cost sheet is. Cost sheet, it is a statement of cost incurred at every level of manufacturing a product or service. This is what the cost sheet is. So cost sheet is a statement that is showing us the increasing of the cost at the different level of manufacturing of a product and services. The basic elements, the basic elements that we have discussed were labor, direct material, then we have discussed about direct expenses, we have discussed about factory overhead, then office and administrative overheads, and then we have discussed about selling and distribution overhead. So this is what is the main elements that we have discussed under the unit 2. And now what we are going to discuss is how we are going to show these elements, that in the different level or at the different level, how much cost we are incurring. We are going to present them in a form of statement. That is called a cost sheet. So the preparation of cost sheet is a very important aspect of the cost accounting. So let's start with the preparation of a cost sheet. For this, I will be discussing first of all with you guys one format. First of all, we are going to discuss with you guys a particular format of a cost sheet. So right now over here, like I have already prepared a cost sheet format. So this is the 2 lines that I have drawn. Cost sheet for the period, this will be the heading. I am leaving 2 spaces, one for the detail column. In the detail column, I can write the amount of per unit, and then I have a column for the total amount writing down. So this is what the basic format of the cost sheet is. This is how you are going to prepare it. So first of all, we start our cost sheet with the direct material. First of all, we are start with our cost sheet with the direct material, which is A part. You guys can also call it as an A part. Direct material consumed. That is the raw material that we have consumed. So to calculate the direct material consumed, we have opening stock, whatever the opening stock of raw material is. In this, we add purchases of raw material and in this we add any kind of carriage inward. You guys know that this point you might have studied in the financial accounting also, that the carriage inward is a part of purchases. So whatever the carriage inward charges, if there is any kind of anything like this is given to you guys in the question, will be the part of purchases, and we less the closing stock of raw material. So this is how we calculate the direct material consumed. That's come as a A part. Then B, direct labor. Any kind of direct labor expenses or direct wages given to you guys, that we are going to write. And the C part, we are going to write any kind of direct expenses, that is any kind of direct expenses that is related to the manufacturing of the goods, if it is given to us in the question. So what we are going to do, when we add this A, B and C, we get the prime cost. So our prime cost is equal to A plus B plus C. So whatever the direct material we have consumed, which is equal to opening stock of raw material plus purchases of raw material plus carriage inward less closing stock of raw material. In this we are going to add direct expenses and direct labor or direct wages. So up to this, if we make a total, we are going to get the prime cost. So prime cost, so now this is what we have to discuss over here, that what is a prime cost is. What is a prime cost is? So our prime cost is basically a cost that is incurred for the manufacturing of for the primary manufacturing, that is related to our direct material, direct labor and direct expenses. So this is a direct cost. So this is prime cost is basically the total of all the direct cost. Under this classification, the direct cost of the product or services added together. So means whatever the direct cost we have incurred, either in the form of material, either in the form of labor, either in the form of expenses. If you make a total of it, it is called a prime cost. Prime means first. So this is the first and the main cost which is related to the manufacturing of a something. That is called a prime cost. So after the prime cost, now once we have reached up to the prime cost, we are going to start up adding the indirect cost, guys. After the prime cost, so this is the total of a direct cost, so means whatever the rest of the cost that is left is in the form of indirect cost. So the indirect cost is the first kind of cost that we have is factory overheads. So we have factory overheads over here. So factory overheads, for example, in the form of depreciation on plant and machinery, depreciation on factory building, apart from it, supervisor, foreman, salary, any kind of petroleum, gas, or you guys can say fuel or power expense you have paid factory rent also. So these are called basically your overheads, factory overheads. Sorry. So these are called up to this as the factory overheads. Apart from it, we may have to add or less some of the more things into it. Not only this, there may be some of the other things that may be here in the form of other things are here, but mainly these are the constituents of the factory overheads. So factory overheads are basically the indirect cost that is related to the factory in it. So that is basically in the it is in the form of depreciation, in the form of depreciation of plant on the plant and machinery, that is in the factory, depreciation of factory building, supervisors, foreman salaries, petroleum and gas, and factory rent. So these are the things that is given to us in the guys. For example, if any kind of scrap is given to you, for example, scrap, sale of scrap, scrap sold, or you guys are given with the sale of scrap, if anything extra is left and you are selling it out, that is to be subtracted from the factory overhead. In this, we also add, if we have any kind of opening stock of work in progress, and we also less if we are given with the closing stock of work in progress. If it is not given to us in the question, then we can leave it just like that. So basically what we do, first we compute for the direct cost is when we make the total of it, it comes as a prime cost. After getting the prime cost, now what we start doing is we start to add the indirect costs. So first kind of indirect cost that we have is in the form of factory overheads. So factory overheads is the different kind of indirect costs that is related to the factory. If you have sold any kind of scrap in that year, so we are going to less that scrap, and we are going to add the opening stock of work in progress is there, and we are going to less the closing stock of work in progress if there is any. And once you add up these things into the prime cost, so we have calculated already up to the prime cost, so now we are going to add all these things or less these things out of the prime cost. So we will get the factory cost, net factory cost, or you guys can also call it as a work cost up to this. So this will come as a net factory cost or a work cost. So this is what we have prepared in the part of the cost sheet. So first we have related to the direct material, then we start with the indirect cost, in which first we have computed for the factory cost. So after the computation of factory cost comes the other type of cost, that is office and administrative costs. So now the next type of cost comes is an office and administrative cost. So for example, if you are given with any kind of office, rent is there, office salaries are there in the form of plant and printing and stationery is there. So all are these are called as office and administrative cost. You are paying any kind of tax, you are paying any kind of legal charges, you are paying any kind of entertainment charges. Those are all called office and administrative costs. So what we will do now, in the work cost, we are going to add up any kind of indirect office and administrative cost. So when we add up these things into it, we get over here cost of production. We gets over here cost of production over here. But our cost sheet does not end over here, although my page has end. So I am going to attach one more page over here like this. For example, if I carried it out, the same thing, if I carried it out like this, in the next adjoining page, for example, similarly over here, so it will be like this. Just a moment. So means once you are done up to the cost of production, to compute the cost of production, what we have to do in the net factory cost or the work cost that you have calculated, you have to add indirect office and administrative cost, that is in the form of office rent, salaries, or taxes or legal charges are there, so that you guys can get cost of production. In the cost of production, you have to add now. If it is given to you guys, then you guys can add. If it is not given, so you guys can leave it like this. Opening stock of finished goods. And you guys are going to less out of it closing stock of finished goods. So that you guys can calculate so that you guys can calculate cost of goods sold. This will come as cost of goods sold up to this. So till now we have discussed the cost sheet like this. First of all, we have calculated the prime cost. The prime cost is basically the total of all the direct cost. Secondly, in this prime cost, we have to add the factory overheads, factory indirect cost. So we have added any kind of factory indirect cost is there. If there is any kind of scrap we have sold in that year, we are going to lessen that. We are going to add any kind of opening stock or work in progress if it is given to us. We are going to less if there is any kind of closing stock or work in progress is given. By doing this, we are going to find the work cost. In the work cost, now we are going to add further any kind of office and administrative costs that are given to us. For example, in the form of office rent, salaries, printing and stationery, legal charges are there, and other things are there, so that we can compute the cost of production. Once we are up to the cost of production, in the cost of production, we are going to add the opening stock of finished goods, and we are going to less the closing stock of finished goods, so that we can find the cost of goods sold. So once you have find COGS, in this COGS, cost of goods sold, we are going to now add selling and distribution overheads. Selling and distribution overheads. So in the selling and distribution overheads, any kind of advertisement cost, any kind of packaging cost, sales commissions are there, any kind of warehouse cost, any kind of carriage outwards are there. So we are going to add all of these things into it, so that we can find out, what is the cost of sales we have made. This is basically our cost price. This is basically what? This is our cost price. So this is what we are going to find it out there. Once we have calculated the cost of sales, if we are given with our profit, well and so, in the cost price, if you fill up your profit, you will get your sales over here. Or sometime in the questions you guys are given with the sales, that is your SP. So if you guys are given with the sales and you have computed the cost of sales, so from the SP, if you minus the cost price, you will get your profit over here. So this will come as an answer. So you guys can see that the cost price, basically the cost sheet has quite a long format, but we have no need to worry about. We just have to remember the steps that we have to follow while preparing the cost sheet. Like first of all, the computation or the including of all the direct costs. For example, to compute the prime cost, direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Then the next turn comes off to factory overheads. So in the factory overheads, all the cost that is related to factory only. If there is any kind of opening stock or work in progress is given, you add that. If you are given with the closing stock or work in progress, you lessen that, so that you can come to know about the work cost or the factory cost. Next in that cost, you have to add the office and administrative cost, in which you have to add any kind of office expenses, rent, salaries, plant and machinery, stationery, tax and legal charges, so that you can come to know about the cost of production. After doing the cost of production, you have to add cost of opening stock of finished goods, less closing stock of finished goods, so that the cost of goods sold can be found out. If this is given to us, well and good. If it is not given, then this from here we can find out cost of goods sold. In the cost of goods sold, you have to add selling and distribution overheads. Once you have added the selling and distribution overheads over here, then you will guys get the cost of sales. In the cost of sales, if profit figure is given to you, minus that, you will get add that so that you can get a sales. If sales figure is given to you, then from the cost of sales minus the sales so that you guys can get a profit figure. So this is how we are going to prepare our cost sheet. Now what we are going to do is we are going to perform a one question of the cost sheet so that you guys can be very clear that how a cost sheet question is being done. Okay, so let's start with this. I am going to solve a one example of the cost sheet that is given to me in your book. So that is given to me on the page number 46. If you guys you guys can see this example on the page number 46. So calculate the prime cost. The question states that calculate the prime cost, factory cost, cost of production, cost of sales and profit from the following particulars. So it is quite a big question is given to me. So one by one I will be solving this question in the simplest form. So let's start with it. I'm going to draw it like this. So in this question, so just I have a need not to draw the detail book one because only total figure is given to me. So I will be just drawing it like this. So particulars over here, I'm going to write cost sheet as for period. For example, if it is on 31st March 2021 and the amount figure over here. So the first thing which I have a need to calculate is a prime cost. So let's start. I am given with the direct material. So first thing which is given to me is a direct material. So means it is a total direct material consumed that is given to me for a period. So I'm going to write is as it is, which is given to me as a 2 lakh rupees. If you want to put a more column to it, you guys can also put the detail columns. If you want to do the one column, you can do with that also. So I am going to put 2 lakh rupees over here. Next thing which is given to me is a direct wage. So direct wage is equal to 50,000 rupees over here. Next thing is given to me is a direct expenses. So the direct expenses that is come as 10,000. So these are the main costs that is related to our, which is basically related to our prime cost. So this is A, this is B, this is C. So means if I add A, B plus C, so I will get my prime cost. So the total of these three comes over here, that is called 2,60,000. So this is, we have calculated the prime cost. In the prime cost, now I have to add the factory overheads. So whatever the factory overheads will be given to me, I am going to add it up in the prime cost. So let's see what are the different kind of factory overheads are given to me in the question. So I am given with the factory also and administrative office expenses and selling also. So what I am going to do, I am going to divide some space so that I don't have a need to read the question again and again. So factory overheads are there. Here I am going to write the office overheads, leaving some space for them. Then I am here going to account for the selling and distribution overheads. So one by one I will be posting it up like this. So first of all, now let's see what is given to me is wage of foreman. So foreman is a person who is basically in the factory. So I am going to write the wage of foreman, and foreman is a one who work basically on the supervision. So that's why it is an indirect labor, not a direct labor. So the wage of foreman is 5,000 rupees. So I am writing it down like this. Next is electricity power. So this basically electricity power can be for the factory also and can be for the office also. So basically the main electricity that we work is used in the factory. So I am going to put it at under the factory overheads. So electricity power is going to come over here. So amounted to 1000. Next thing which is given to me, lightning. In the two option, one is a factory, one is for the office. So lightning of factory will go under the factory overheads. It's amounting to 3000. And the lightning which is related to office, will go under the office overhead, office and administrative overheads, which is 1000. So what you just have to do is you have to classify the different expenses related to this so that you can prepare your cost sheet. So next thing which is given to me is a storekeeper wages. So storekeeper is nobody, is the one who is working in the factory. So here I am going to write storekeeper wages. So storekeeper wages comes as a 2000. So here I am writing 2000. Next thing is given to me is oil and water. So oil and water is again something that is to be used in the factory. So oil and water over here is going to come as a 1000. Next thing is given to me is a rent. And rent is given twice. One is an office rent, other is a factory rent. So here I am going to rent of factory under the factory overheads, that is 10,000, and office rent under the office overheads, it comes as a 5,000. So this is how we are going to prepare the cost sheet. Next is depreciation of plant. So it will come under the factory overhead because basically our plant is associated with the factory. The plant is in the factory where the basic manufacturing happen. So the plant will come under the factory overheads. Over here I will be writing depreciation of plant. So it's amounted to 1000. Next thing is given to me as an office only. So this must be any kind of expense that is related to office. So we are going to write it over here, 2500. Next is given to us consumable stores. So consumable stores are basically the things which is related to our production in the factory, like in the form of nut bolts are there, greases are there, anything consumable that is being used in everyday process. So I'm writing over here consumable stores. So this is basically related to the things that is to be used in the factory, comes as a 5,000 over here. Then is manager's salary. So manager is basically the one who is in the office. So I'm going to write over here manager's salary. It comes to me as 10,000 rupees. So I'm writing down over here as a 10,000. Next thing is director's fees. So director fees is again a one who is in the office. So I'm going to write it down under the office overhead. Director fee is given to me 2,500. So with this, one part of the question is over. Let's move to the next one. Then is given is to us is office stationery. So office stationery is obviously is a part of the office overhead. So office stationery is over here. And it's amounted to 1,000 to us. Next thing is given to us is a telephone charges. So telephone charges are again related to office. So we are going to write over here telephone charges. So it's amounted to 250 over here. Next thing which is given to me is postage and telegram. So postage and telegram is again the thing which is related to office. This comes as a 300. Next thing is given to us is a salesman's salary. So salesman's salary is basically related to the selling and distribution overhead. So I am going to write salesman's salary under the selling and distribution overheads, which comes to as 2,500 over here. Next thing is given to us is as traveling expenses. So traveling expenses is again related to selling and distribution. Means the person is traveling to make the sales or to make the distribution. So it is again the head of selling and distribution over here. Traveling expenses. It comes as traveling expenses. It comes as 1000 over here. Next thing is given to us repair and renewal of plant 7000. So this is a repair and renewal of the plant which is related to the factory overhead. So I'm going to write it over here, repair and renewal of plant. So repair and renewal of plant is going to come as a 7000 which is given to me. Office premises 1000. There might be some kind of expenditure that is related to office premises short by the space. So office premises comes as 1000. You guys can leave more space so you guys can adjust, but normally in a question so many points are not given. In this question there are so many points are given, so that's why. Next thing is given to us is carriage outward 750. So carriage outward is going to become under the selling and distribution. It will come as 750. Then apart from it, there many other things are given like transfer to reserves are there. Transfer to reserves are again going to be under the head of office overheads. So we have reached to the transfer of reserves, but because I was short by the space, so I have drawn this question again on the other page. So we are going to begin it up over here. So this is the same question, just I have tried to give a more space. So the next thing that was given to us is the transfer of reserve 1000 rupees. The transfer of reserve is also basically related to the office and overhead. So here I am going to write the transfer to reserves over here. So how much I am transferring? That is 1000 rupees. So I have added up over here. Apart from it, discount on the shares written off. So these are basically related to our things which is related to the office part. So we are going to write it down over here, that there is the discount on the share that is written off. Next is advertisement. So we know advertisement is related to the selling and distribution. So advertisement will come over here 2500. Warehouse charges. So warehouse is basically related to the selling and distribution. Again 1000. Next thing is given to us is sales. The sales we are making. So sales is going to be the last part. So I'm going to write the sales at the very last. It's going to come over here 379000. And the last thing which is given to us is income tax, and we are given with the dividend. So here I am going to write the income tax under the overhead and dividend under the office overheads. So with this our cost sheet has been made as a 20,000 and 4,000. So now we have transferred each and everything that is related to the question. So now what I have to do, I have to make total. I have already calculated the prime cost. So in this prime cost, I am going to add up all the other factory overhead costs. So when I will add it up here, I will get the factory cost or work cost. It will come equal to, when I will add it up, it will come equal to 2 lakh. So the addition of this all will come over here. It will come to as 35,000. So you have to add it up in 2,60,000. So the 2,95,000 will come over here. So after doing this, what we have to do is the calculation of totaling of this all. That is a cost which is related to your factory. The cost which is related to your office and administration. So we will add it up. It will come to over here 23,750. So when you will make the total over here, this will come as your cost of production, or you guys can in this case also called as cost of sales. So in 2,95,000, when you will add 23,750, so it will come as 3,18,750. So now the next thing what you have to do is to add the selling and distribution cost into it. So now whatever the selling and distribution cost that we have in this form will come over here as 7750. So you will add it up in the 3,18,750 that we have with us as a cost of production. So it will come as 3,26,500. This comes as our cost of sales, that is our sale price. So we have cost of sales, that is SCP, that is our sales price. So from the sales, if I will minus this, I will get my profit. So profit will come as sales minus cost of sales. So it is a balancing figure, comes as 52,500. So it will come as 52,000. So our profit figure comes as 52,500. So with this, our cost sheet sum is solved. So this is how we prepare a basic cost sheet. So which is basically nothing but an assessment, or you guys can say a statement, in which the cost which is related to the different aspect of the cost is divided. So this is how the cost sheet is prepared. I hope so you guys are quite clear with this question. So now so we are done with the cost sheet, which is a basic cost sheet without any kind of opening stock and closing stock is given to us. So for this you guys can practice more and more questions that is given to you guys in the books provided by the Lovely Professional University. So we have already done a very basic question of the cost sheet. Now I am going to do one more question of the cost sheet, which is going to include some opening stocks and the closing stocks that is given to us. It is on the page number 48 of your given book. In the page number 48 of your given book, you are given with this question, which is basically related to the preparation of the cost sheet, that is from the following data that is given from, that is recorded from June 1st to June 30 of the year 2005. So we have to prepare the cost sheet out of it. So let's start and do one more question that is related to it. So just a moment, let me draw you guys can say a format for it. So particulars in this case, details over here, and the total I am going to write over here. So cost sheet for period, whatever so the period is, you guys can write the name of the period over here. So this is quite a small question. What we have to do is, first of all, direct material, direct labor. Then in the up to this, I'm going to start writing factory overheads over here. I'm going to write if there is any given. Then here I'm going to write, I'm not going to give more space to factory overheads. Here I'm going to write office and administrative overheads, so that I can compute that. And then I'm going to write here selling and distribution overheads. So this is how I have prepared the format. So I have already prepared the format. So let's start doing the question. So we are first of all given as a cost of raw material. So the cost of raw material is basically our direct material. So the direct material which is given to us in the question is equal to 60,000. That is our opening stock of raw material. So means I have to compute the direct material consumed in this case. So I am given with the cost of raw material, that is opening also and closing also. So first of all, opening stock of raw material which is given to me as a 60,000. I am going to write it over here. Next thing is basically related to it, given to me is a closing stock. So before I add the closing stock, I have to add in it purchases, and in this I have to less closing stock. If any kind of work in carriage inward is given to me, I will also add it up into purchases. So closing stock of raw material, I have to lessen it out. So the closing stock of raw material is given to me is 50,000. So this is a negative figure, I have to subtract it. So I am going to keep that figure under the bracket to show that I have to initially, at the last, I have to subtract it out. Next thing it's given to me is the purchase of raw material, that is 9 lakh, sorry. So in the opening stock of raw material, I have to add purchases. So what is the amount of purchases that I made in this year is of 9 lakhs. So I'm going to add it up over here. Next thing after purchases is given to me is the wages paid. So wages paid is something basically related to direct labor. So this is a B part, comes as a direct labor or direct wages. This amounts to basically, if you want to leave a space over here to write down the total, you guys can write it down, or you can, like here I'm leaving a little space so that I can compute the total, and then I'm going to write the direct labor over here, that is 4,60,000. It's come as a 4,60,000. That is a direct labor given to me. Next thing straight away is given to me as a factory overhead as 1,84,000. So this is the simplest thing. In the factory overhead is already given to me as a 1,84,000. Next thing is given to me is administrative overhead as a 60,000. So in the office and administrative overhead, I will be adding administrative cost or overhead, whatever is given to me. So this administrative cost or the thing which is given to me are like this. It is given to me in the question as 60,000. So I will be writing it down as a 60,000. Selling and distribution overhead as in 40,000. So selling and distribution. So it is a very simple question. So selling and distribution cost is given to me as simple as that, 40,000. And the sales which is given to me is amounting to 18 lakh. So very simple question. The main thing is that we still have to write the closing and opening stock of the different thing that is given to us. So after the closing and the opening stock of raw material, we are given with the opening and the closing stock of work in progress. Opening and the closing stock of work in progress, but please remember that it is dealt under the factory overhead. So here I have to add opening stock of work in progress, that's amounted to 24,000, and I have to less closing stock of work in progress. In this I also have to less closing stock of raw material of the work in progress. So this is going to be a negative figure. Next thing comes as to me stock of finished goods. So we are also given with the opening and the closing stock of finished goods, and that is to be dealt under the office and administrative overhead. So here I will be adding opening stock of finished goods less closing stock of finished goods. So opening stock of finished good is given to me is 1,20,000, and closing stock is given to me is 1,10,000. So 1,20,000 and 1,10,000. So with this we have transferred all the things, and now I have to calculate the totals. So here I have to calculate the prime cost. We are not given with any kind of direct cost, so here this will be come over here. So in 60,000 plus 9 lakh minus 50,000, so it will come as 9 lakh and 10,000. So in the 9 lakh and 10,000 you have to add 4 lakh